Good afternoon and welcome to the Fox 5 Live Zone. I'm your host, Guy Lambert. A busy day right here in the nation's capital. Jeffrey Epstein victim speaking out on Capitol Hill just minutes ago. Compelling testimony. We're going to chat about that later on in the show. But first, let's take you to the White House, the Oval Office to be exact, where President Trump now sitting down with Polish President Karol Nawrocki. The topic of discussion surrounding U.S. military presence in Poland. Let's go ahead and take a look in.
We could do that with New York. We could do it with Los Angeles. So we're making a determination now. Do we go to Chicago or do we go to a place like New Orleans where we have a great governor, Jeff Landry, who wants us to come in and straighten out a very nice section of this country that's become quite tough, quite bad. So we're going to be going to maybe Louisiana. And you have New Orleans, which has a crime problem. We'll straighten that out in about 2 weeks. It'll take us 2 weeks, easier than D.C. But we could straighten out Chicago. All they have to do is ask us to go into Chicago if we don't have the support of some of these politicians. But I'll tell you who is supporting us, the people of Chicago. And I sort of want them to let it be known. They have incompetent people. A guy like Gavin Newsom, he's the governor of a state that if we didn't go into Los Angeles with our soldiers, with our National Guard, you wouldn't even be having the Olympics there. They were going to take it. And remember this, your top law enforcement officer in Los Angeles said, there's no way we could have done this without President Trump coming in with the troops. We saved Los Angeles and we saved the Olympics. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. President, in regards to Gavin Newsom, would you be open to a congressional investigation in regards to the specific Palisades fire where it killed 12 seniors to see if there's any negligence on Gavin Newsom or Karen Bass in regards to those deaths?
Well, I'll tell you, there's negligence on not getting people permits. That is negligent. We got all of the federal permits. Lee Zeldin, the federal permits are much more difficult. They were all gotten within 30 days. People could go build their houses. It's going to be years before they are allowed to build the house. And Karen Bass is grossly incompetent. And Newsom, this is a very incompetent guy. I watched him with the hands. I'm saying, what's going on with the hands? There's something wrong with him. You watch him. There's something wrong with this guy. But more importantly, he didn't allow the water to come from the Pacific Northwest. You know, they have tremendous amounts of water in California. People don't know. They send the water out to the Pacific Ocean. So I demanded it be open. If that were open during the fire, before the fire, you wouldn't have had the fire because all the sprinklers would have worked in the houses. They had no water. They had no water in the fire hydrants. You wouldn't have had the fires. It would have been put out after one house, two houses. But he stopped the water from coming in. And I had to send in the military to have that water opened after the fires. And now they have water, but he should have more because they've restricted, they still restricted. There's something wrong with these people. There's something really wrong. As to investigation, I view it as a gross incompetence. I view it as an ideology that's wrong. It's a radical left ideology. And if I didn't win this election, I think our country would be destroyed. I don't believe you'd be here right now, and our country would be destroyed. Yeah.
Go
ahead. Mr. President Trump, thank you, sir. What's the most important branches of interest between Poland and U.S. in your opinion?
Well, it's just the relationship we have. I think there's a great trust and a great more than most countries, more than almost any countries. We have some in a category that's very special, and Poland is in that category. We have a very special relationship. It's like the question about the soldiers that was asked. We never even thought in terms of removing soldiers from Poland. We do think about it with regard to other countries, but we would never know. We're with Poland all the way, and we will help Poland protect itself.
I would like to add something. Yeah, of course, security is most important also for our relation. And I'm a historian, as you know, maybe, Mr. President.
Sure.
I'm a historian, and this is the first time in Polish history, in 20th century and the 21st century, that the Poles are happy that we have foreign soldiers in Poland. So the American soldiers are the part of our society nowadays. We have almost 10,000 soldiers, and this is the signal to the whole world and also to the Russian Federation that we are together, but we are not like the Poland free riders in Europe and in NATO. Mr. President Trump knows it, because our GDP for military service achieved 4.7, so we are probably the one NATO nation which is on this level, and we will not stop. Me, as the President of Poland, we are going to achieve 5% of GDP for military service, but with American soldiers on Polish soil, we solidify and we are secure.
Mr. President, just about that. You know, Poland was one of two nations that paid more than they were supposed to with NATO. I don't know if anyone knows that, but there were two nations, and Poland paid more than they were supposed to. They thought it was low. And by the way, since then, at my request, they've raised it from 2% to 5%. But Poland was one of two nations that paid more than they were supposed to, which was a very nice thing. Yeah.
What's your message? You are upset that you were not invited to the parade in Beijing.
Never even thought about it until just now.
President Dabrowski, what's your message for President?
Never even thought. It wouldn't have been my place to be there.
President Dabrowski, what's your message for
tariffs? Will you visit a restaurant in DC? You haven't gone to.
I might, sure.
You haven't gone to one in either of your terms that wasn't.
How do you know? How do you know?
Because I and many other.
Do you want me to prove you wrong? Do you want me to prove you wrong?
Yes, please.
But I will. I think it's something we could consider doing. Love to do it. I love the White House food, but after a while, I can see going to a nice restaurant. It's safe. If you would have said, like the Governor Moore wanted me to go and walk through Baltimore with him, and I said, you know, I think I'm a brave guy, but there's no reason to be stupid. They have crime that's at levels that nobody's ever seen before in Baltimore. They've done a terrible job. We'd go into Baltimore, straighten it out very quickly, too. You know why? They respect our soldiers. You see our soldiers. They respect our soldiers. We'd go there, too. But we're going to have people asking us to go. They're going to want to, and I think the people of those places the politicians are not in tune with the people. The people in Chicago, the people in Baltimore, the people in all of the places we talk about, they want to see us there. And I think we're pretty much waiting till we get asked, and properly. Because we're doing them a big service. Yeah, please.
You talked about how historic these tariffs have been, bringing in revenue, additional revenue for our country. You've also mentioned before they could possibly replace federal income tax.
Possible.
Do you think that's
Someday it's possible. It used to be. So if you go back to 1913 is when they ended tariffs. We were the richest ever from 1850. It was all tariffs. We didn't have income taxes. From 1850 to 1913. In the 1887s, about 1887, they had the Great National Tariff Act. And it was a group of people that got together because our country was so rich, they didn't know what to do with the money. We had so much money, they didn't know what to do. It was a group of very prominent people that were set up to hand out money to everybody because we were the richest we ever were. Proportionately, we were in 1887, around that time, even in 1913. We ended them in 1913. How did that work out? And then we went to the income tax system, and then we had the Depression. And by the way, a lot of people try and say that, oh, tariffs with the Depression. No, they ended in 1913, and then we went to income tax, and then in 1929 you had the Depression. They did try and bring it back in 1931-32, but the Depression had long started, and this poor, beautiful nation was gone. It was gone. We suffered for 25 years. It took 25, 30 years to really recover from the Depression. And we don't ever want to see that happen again. The tariffs are vital to the success of this country. When I say I ended 7 wars, at least half of those wars were ended because of the power of tariffs. I was able to say, well, we're not doing any business with you, or if you're going to war, we're putting a big tariff on you. And all of a sudden they announced that the war was settled. I settled 7 different wars, one going 31 years, one to look at the Congo and Rwanda. Look at that, 31 years, 10 million people dead. I got it settled. And a little bit of that one, less than in some cases, had to do with trade and had to do with tariffs. So, you know, tariffs are vital to our country. And just so you know, other countries use them on us, but I just used them a lot better. We're in a much better position. We have trillions of dollars coming into our country. If we didn't have tariffs, we would be a very poor nation, and we would be taken advantage of by every other nation in the world, friend and foe. We're not going to let that happen. And we have a very, very big case in the Supreme Court. I can only say this. Our country has a chance to be unbelievably rich again, but it can also be unbelievably poor again. If we don't win that case, our country is going to suffer so greatly, so greatly. But I think we're going to have a big victory. Even if you look at the people that brought the case, they're foreign-oriented. They're foreign. Countries have taken advantage of the United States for so many years. And I started with China. You know, last term, I took in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs from China. But when COVID came, the last thing I was going to do is we're going to tariff France and Italy and, you know, others, Spain, when they were doing so badly. But now we made a deal with the European Union where they're paying us almost $1 trillion, and they're happy to do it. You know what? They're happy. It's done. These deals are all done. I guess we'd have to unwind them. We've done deals with Japan, with South Korea. We've done deals with many countries and others to come. And if we didn't have the power, prestige, and dignity of tariffs, and I used them wisely, and people respect America again, and we've become a rich country again. The money coming in is incredible. And again, they use them on us. If we didn't have them, they would use them on us, and we would have no way to fight them. We would be a third world nation. So I think it's one of the most important cases I've ever seen go before the Supreme Court of the U.S.
Can I follow on the tariffs? You gave Vladimir Putin a 2-week deadline to agree to talks with Volodymyr Zelensky. That deadline is now nearly approached. Can you give us any indication of when you will make a decision?
Well, I'm having a conversation with him very shortly, and I'll know pretty much what we're going to be doing. We've taken very strong action, as you know. And in other ways, we've taken very strong action. But I'll be speaking to him over the next few days, and we're going to see.
With whom,
I'm
sir?
going to know exactly what's happening.
Mr.
But I'm not happy with all the people. You got 7,819 people killed last week. Russian soldiers and Ukraine soldiers, right? Not American soldiers, not soldiers from Poland, but they're human beings. They're souls. They have parents. They wave goodbye to their parents, and their parents never see them again. That's the end of them. Over a stupid war, and I want to see it stopped. Now, we have stopped the money we send weapons to NATO. They pay full price. We don't, you know, Biden spent $350 billion so stupidly. And it was one of the reasons that this whole thing happened. A big reason this war happened was sitting right in these chairs, this one in particular. So I will tell you that I think we're going to have a good solution, but they're losing soldiers at levels that nobody has seen since the Second World War. This is the worst conflict, and it's just going on and on. It's one's defense, one's offense. The offense moves a little bit, just a little bit. You take a look. They move inches. They're dropping bombs and killing everybody. The whole thing is not since the Second World War has there been anything even close to this. And they're not soldiers from my country. This is my country. But I have a power to end things. That's why I was able to end 7 other wars. And you know that I thought of the 7, basically 7. Those were tough wars to end. Much tougher, I thought, than the war with Ukraine and Russia. I thought that Ukraine and Russia have a very good relationship with President Putin. I thought that would be much easier. I thought that would be in the middle of the pack, maybe one of the easiest. Sometimes you never know with war. You know, war is a very interesting thing. You never know with war. War is complex and dangerous, and what a mess, what a bloody mess. It's going to get done one way or the other, but they have to stop killing all of these souls. They're souls, and we have to stop killing. Thank you very
All right, there you have it. President Trump taking questions in the Oval Office as he sits down with Poland President Nawrocki. The president stating in so many words that, well, he plans to send the National Guard into Chicago sometime in the near future. President Trump also stating that if he did not win, the country would, in his words, be destroyed. So what happens now? Well, the president will sit down yet again with the Polish president and discuss a number of things. According to Nawrocki, who happens to be the president of Poland, well, neither Russia nor its leader, Vladimir Putin, can be trusted. This meeting, by the way, is expected to be largely political in nature. No concrete deliverables are anticipated as the president of Poland holds limited executive power. We'll continue to monitor the discussions throughout the afternoon right here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. But as stated, it is a busy day on Capitol Hill as well. Earlier today, a number of Jeffrey Epstein's victims spoke out. Compelling testimony. We're going to chit-chat about that in the 1 o'clock hour. Meanwhile, Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader, along with other House Democrats, are holding a news conference on housing affordability. That conference got underway about 20 minutes ago. Let's go ahead and take a look in.
What Republicans have done with this bill and them constantly looking to rebrand it and shape-shift it makes it easier for you all to show voters and show constituents that you all are the folks who can actually solve this crisis?
Absolutely. First, let me kind of say they're trying to brand it because it is so bad, that piece of legislation, that it was a direct attack on working people, cutting their health care, cutting programs that they rely on like SNAP, that it was actually making things worse, all just to give tax breaks to the largest corporations and the wealthiest people in this country. And they know that, and they see when they go to the grocery store every single day, when they are trying to pay their rent, when they're trying to pay their utilities, the prices keep going up, up, and up. And that they haven't delivered on the affordability. Things are actually getting worse. And if we're gonna actually tackle this affordability crisis that Trump said he was gonna tackle on day one, we have to start with housing, because that is what impacts people throughout. This is not just a blue state issue. It is also a red state issue. We hear more and more Republicans talk about it, but then take no concrete steps to actually fix it. So we're gonna start laying out an agenda that are being put together across the Democratic caucus led by Hakeem Jeffries. Reduce cost of living, create opportunities to go to college or start a small business and save for retirement. And then have the kind of investment that meets the need. Right now, everything we've done has been too small, too slow, and too expensive. We got to think different. Brad?
Thanks for the question. And you can try to rebrand something as much as you want. It doesn't change the simple facts, as Representative Gomez touched on, that the one big bad bill is making life more expensive for working families in the country. It's going to take health care away from tens of millions of people. It's going to take $500 billion out of Medicare. What I was looking for, I just happen to have, as kids are going back to school this month and last month, the prices are up because of the president's tariffs, tax on working families. Notepads up by 7%. The big one here, index cards up by 43%. Lunch boxes are going to cost 10% more. The supplies kids need to go to school, learn the lessons, to succeed and get ahead is costing families more. Rather than, as Representative Torres said, rather than making the investment in improving the housing stock in this country, this administration, the president and the Republicans supporting him, are working to cut investment in public housing, making it harder for people to put a roof over their head to provide for their families. So Democrats, why we stand here in front of you right now, we are united in saying that we need to bring down the cost for families in America. It's not that America is too expensive, it's living in America. Getting ahead in America is too hard, too difficult, too expensive. And we've got to bring down the cost of living for working families. That's what we're doing. The Republicans can try to rebrand their bill, but the facts of their bill remain the same. They're not taking steps to make life easier for working families.
The rebranding is a euphemism for deceptive advertising. And the so-called Big Beautiful Bill is the most regressive piece of legislation in the history of our country, because it essentially cuts Medicare and SNAP, healthcare and food, the essentials of life for working people, by $1 trillion in order to fund tax cuts for the top 1%, who have 12 times more wealth than the bottom 60%. I cannot imagine a more regressive piece of legislation. And I have constituents who, after paying all their bills, paying the rent, paying utilities, are living on $20 a day. And so Republicans are cutting health care and food for those living on $20 a day in order to find tax cuts for the likes of Elon Musk, who has a net worth of $400 billion. In what universe does that qualify as a working class tax cut?
I haven't actually heard about the name that they were going to call it, so thanks for bringing that to my attention. What a joke. And, you know, Donald Trump continues to think that he can con his way, as he has in the past, and make voters say something that is wildly different from reality. Even though he's a con man, he's not going to be able to con his way out of the implications of this bill. And they know that. That's why so many of the impacts are going to hit after the midterm elections. And they're trying to change the name because it is deeply unpopular out in the world, as we've gone out to tell our voters about what they just passed and what's going to happen in our communities. And most of us were in our districts, meeting with people, holding town halls, visiting nursing homes, visiting our healthcare centers, our hospitals. This is the largest transfer of wealth from working class families to the most wealthy in the history of the United States, to the wealthiest people in the world in the history of the world. And so when they try to rebrand this, people are going to feel the pain. They're already feeling the economic pain of the tariffs, the instability in the market, the fact that we've seen our job growth stagnate after we've exponentially increased our job growth and our economic prosperity here and our recovery from the global pandemic. So they are not going to be able to lie their way out of the pain and suffering that is going to hit every person throughout this country who is not a millionaire or a billionaire.
Thank you, Congressman. The Republicans have also made their own arguments for what housing policy should look like. Can we just hear some reaction from you all on what you think of the administration's arguments that, for instance, deporting millions of people or increasing energy production or arresting homeless people would be a productive way of addressing the housing crisis? How do Democrats respond to the Republicans' messaging on policies like that?
All right, yet again, Democrats speaking on Capitol Hill surrounding the housing affordability crisis. And talk about a tongue twister. We will continue to monitor that throughout the afternoon right here on the Live Zone. Speaking of things happening on Capitol Hill, earlier today, several Jeffrey Epstein survivors spoke publicly for the first time at a news conference. It comes as GOP leadership faces pressure for more transparency on the late convicted sex offender's case. All this, as you just saw a minute ago, President Trump now sitting down with none other than the Polish President, Karol Nawrocki. The two now plan to discuss several things with regard to military presence in Poland throughout the afternoon. Joining us to discuss this and so much more is U.S. Navy Captain retired and political strategist Mr. Armin Kurdian back here on the Live Zone. Armin, good to see you, and boy, has it been a busy day thus far.
It's always busy with you, Guy. Hi from the West Coast.
Well, good to see you, sir, and thank you so much for being patient. We'll start with what happened earlier today on Capitol Hill. Several Jeffrey Epstein survivors speaking publicly for the first time. This as the House Oversight Committee released more than, count them, 33,000 pages of Epstein files yesterday. Now we know some House Republicans are signing a petition calling for the release of all the Epstein files. The question is, should they do just that, sir?
It's going to be a tricky proposition to release everything, at least stuff that's not redacted. Once again, you don't want folks who just happen to be picking up Jeffrey Epstein's dry cleaning or somebody who may have been an Uber driver, to be a little bit colloquial, to be caught up in this mess and have their names exposed. So there are certain things which really have no public benefit to know, which could only potentially cause damage to these individuals, that you don't want to be getting out there. I think the White House and the Justice Department want to release as much as they possibly can, but we've heard conflicting reports that there is a list, there is no list. It seems like there is no necessarily like ledger with clients that checked in, this much was paid, and this much was checked out. So whatever can be released should be released, but I think the judges and the Justice Department should be very careful about sending out information which could be misleading or misinterpreted.
I got to tell you, I took a look at the rally that took place earlier, yet again on Capitol Hill, listening to the testimony of some of the alleged victims. Truly compelling and truly something that needs to be brought to the forefront with regard to justice, should they indeed be victims. Let's move on to President Trump, who just minutes ago stated yet again that there will be federal intervention in the city of Chicago. Trump was asked about the possibility of the National Guard going to Chicago to fight crime and responded, "We're going in." Meanwhile, the governor of Illinois says Trump plans, well, to direct immigration enforcement agents to raid Latino communities sometime in the near future. Is this the right thing to do, Armin?
It's hard to send in the National Guard without imposing the Insurrection Act to engage in law enforcement activities, but they can go in and support local law enforcement in terms of protecting federal buildings. There are over 4,000 deputized U.S. Marshals, and there's also a lot of ATF agents that are out there, but they are also bandwidth limited at the same time. And frankly, Chicago's police force is also woefully undermanned. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be a police officer in the city of Chicago if I was treated in that same way. So they got to get their house in order to get more cops on the streets. And so in that sense, whatever Donald Trump can do at the national level within the law that will help bring down crime, the number of homicides, maybe it's going down from the extraordinary levels we saw during COVID, but they're still extremely high. You've got a lot of carjackings and homicides and violent crime in Denver, carjackings in Albuquerque, Baltimore, still a hotbed of violent crime. So this is happening all over the country. Donald Trump is trying to do the right thing and keep people safe.
Yeah, yet again, something we'll have to keep a very close eye on. Speaking of keeping a close eye on something, in this case, we're referring to tariffs, where President Trump says he's going to the Supreme Court after a lower court ruled most of his tariffs are illegal. Trump saying, quote, "We're going to ask for an expedited hearing with the high court as early as today." The president blamed the recent ruling against him on crazy liberal judges. And so I have to ask you, Armin, what do you foresee happening with this?
The Supreme Court is going to look at this and they're going to say what is truly an economic emergency. I think they're going to look at the tariffs that were imposed on China, on India, and perhaps other countries that are doing business with Russia or doing business with nefarious neighbors that are counter to U.S. interests, and saying that those kinds of tariffs are absolutely valid and the president has the right to do so. When it comes to a trade dispute, when it comes to unfair trade or all those other kinds of practices there, I think the Supreme Court may have a more narrow mindset on that one. So it's really going to kind of depend on the lawsuit that's brought or the case that's brought to the Supreme Court and how it's actually going to be written. I do believe that the imposition of tariffs as a general rule, just as part of normal practice, that power should probably be invested with Congress. They should be able to levy taxes just like they are normally supposed to do that. But as the chief executive, the president needs that kind of authority to swiftly impose tariffs and punitive sanctions in that sense on nations that are engaged in this kind of activity, such as buying illicit Russian oil or supplying Russia with drone parts or other kinds of equipment to facilitate their war effort.
Yeah, we've all heard that phrase, "I'll see you in court." In this case, it appears it will be the Supreme Court. Want to continue to move to international affairs. In this case, the president of China, the president of Russia, and the leader of North Korea presented a striking united front, standing shoulder to shoulder during China's military parade. Now, Trump alleged last night that China, Russia, and North Korea are conspiring against the U.S. Your take on this, sir?
Well, you got the president of Iran is also there. The junta leaders from Myanmar are there. Even you saw Prime Minister Modi holding hands with Vladimir Putin. So this should be very, very troubling for the United States and the rest of the Western nations. Perhaps these nations have seen an opportunity with, as we were talking about the tariff conflicts, trade disputes between the U.S. and the West, as an opportunity to come in and perhaps align themselves against the West. I think they should be careful about perhaps overplaying their hand in that sense. However, just the simple fact that they're all there together, aligning themselves against the U.S. and Western interests, trying to create a bulwark against what they see as U.S. influence in the world, should be very, very concerning for all of us. The United States needs to be a lot more strong in the world, needs to be working with Western Europe and other allies around the world that believe in freedom, believe in free markets, and believe in freedom of navigation and freedom of seas, and not going in and simply stealing someone else's country to work against them. India is a bit of a lone actor there in Middle Asia. They got to play nice in the sandbox. But at the same time, I don't think buying Russian oil is the way to do it. So some of those sanctions we talked about, or excuse me, those tariffs, I think are well implemented.
Yeah, yet again, something we will have to keep a very close eye on. We have been speaking with Armin Kernigan, U.S. Navy Captain retired and political strategist, joining us right here on the Live Zone. It's always good to see you, my friend. Thank you so much for your time.
Happy Hump Day.
You bet. Well, earlier today, the Wednesday Clergy Fellowship of Washington, D.C. and vicinity, in collaboration with more than 24 faith-based organizations, held a citywide prayer service titled Pray for the District, Prayerful Resistance. This gathering is more than a prayer service. As they stated, it was a declaration of hope and a united stand against fear, injustice, and inequity. All of this in response to the heightened enforcement measures and the concerns surrounding immigrant families and returning citizens. Joining us now to discuss this and so much more is the Reverend Dr. O. Jermaine Bago, back here on the Live Zone. Sir, good to see you, and thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hey, Guy, good to see you again.
All right, so obviously this was a big day for you all. You all focused on a number of things, including knowing your rights trainings. Do tell.
Yeah, so today was a gathering of over 24 faith and community-based organizations, grounding this work over the next couple of months in prayer. We believe that prayer is a form of active resistance. And so we took the time to gather to pray and then had several different calls of actions to help our communities who are currently suffering, whether it's just persons who are experiencing homelessness or returning citizens who don't have fair housing, and even our immigrant population who've been taken advantage of in a disproportionate way, and particularly our youth. Here in Ward 7 and Ward 8 of Washington, D.C., who are being systematically targeted by this current federal police takeover with the help and support of the Metropolitan Police Department.
It's interesting you made mention of the federal takeover. According to the mayor, she has dubbed it a federal surge. In her own words, we're also getting a potential extension of this federal surge to, according to several insiders, which are now stating that it could last up until the month of December. I'm curious your stance on that, if that happens to turn out to be true.
So we know there are currently several pieces of legislation that are in Congress right now being considered, but there was news yesterday that the mayor signed her own executive order with an open invitation for federal law enforcement agencies to continue to do these operations in Washington, D.C. Listen, we know that crime is an issue, and as a matter of it's happening in urban cities or rural communities. We want to deal with the crime and those who perpetrate it. But there is a way they can do it in a very humane and decent way that does not strip people of their value, their dignity, and their self-worth. And so we encourage both the Trump administration and the Bowser administration to invite clergy and community-based organizations to the tables so that we can restore this element of trust that has been lost.
One of the other things that you all focused today earlier during the Pray for the District Prayerful Resistance happened to be on access to legal services, something that, well, quite honestly, is a lot of folks really need to know about during this time of chaos, as many would describe it being.
Yeah, so we grounded our time today in prayer as the first form of resistance, but we also had several call to actions. One, we brought in partners who would now do a series of trainings on stop and frisk and know your rights. The second, we have partnered with law firms and legal aid services to provide pro bono work for those who have been arrested, particularly our young people as well as our immigrant population. And thirdly, we are organizing. We are training congregations to step outside of the four walls of their churches and to meet us in community at bus stops and train stations so that we can have an active and positive presence to counter the message that has been sent by these administrations.
Pastor, you made mention of the congregation actually coming together and really interacting with the community. During this time, since we've seen the federal surge, have you seen a decrease in the amount of folks that are showing up to church on Sunday?
Absolutely, particularly from our immigrant communities. They're not coming to worship. They're not going to work. The children are not going to school. They're not going to grocery stores or to social gatherings because they are afraid. Not all of them are illegal or without papers, but they just don't want to be targeted because of racial bias, because of who they are and their ethnicity. And we're having a decrease in attendance as it relates to our seniors in the evenings. Seniors are afraid to come out at night to come to Bible study and different types of workshops and programs because they don't want to get caught up in these rolling stop checkpoints that are happening, that are causing all of this unnecessary congestion in our city, on our streets and our highways. And so yeah, the numbers have dropped and people just don't want to come out until it's over.
And so with that, we'll end with this. What do you say to the person that's watching right now? And yet again, they are concerned about all of what you just described. It's leaving the home. They don't know what they're going to face, even if they don't happen to be in a position where they are in the wrong. Some encouraging words, perhaps.
You know, my encouraging word to them is this too shall pass. But we must ignite, we must mobilize, and we must engage our elected officials. This even today was hyper-local. We brought in local religious-based organizations and community-based organizations for this prayer. The saying is all politics are local. Well, the same is also so that all resistance is also local. And so we must begin to unite, come together, and say enough is enough.
Yet again, we have been speaking with the Reverend Dr. O. Jermaine Bago, kind enough to join us right here on the Live Zone. Truly appreciate your time, sir.
Good to see you again.
You bet. All right, folks, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Well, to ensure, Mr. Speaker, that we have full transparency, such as requiring written justification requirements for certain documents that are redacted unless they fall under certain sensitive categories. This is a critical step forward in providing transparency into the Epstein files and will give the public all the necessary information. This vote will show the American people that we are committed to full transparency and cooperation when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein and the investigation thereof. Lastly, this rule is standing up a new select committee to continue investigation of the events surrounding January 6th. They will bring more transparency and continue to investigate what happened that day so the American public is aware of the facts involved. I believe this new subcommittee is another critical step forward to bringing more transparency to everyone about the events and details surrounding that day. I hope members of this House support the passage of the rule and the underlying bills and resolutions. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I reserve the remainder of my time.
Gentleman from Virginia reserves his time. The distinguished gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Speaker, and I thank the gentleman from Virginia for yielding me the customary 30 minutes, and I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentleman's recognized.
Here we go again, Mr. Speaker. Here we go again. This rule is insane. And notwithstanding the gentleman's monotone delivery, there's a lot going on here in this rule, and much of it is not good. What are Republicans doing the first week back? Something to lower food costs as Trump's tariffs drive up prices? Nope. Something to fully fund the government before it shuts down in less than a month? Nope. Something to help with skyrocketing health care prices or reversing their devastating cuts to Medicaid? Nope. None of that. Nothing to help regular people, nothing to help workers or families or people struggling to get by. Instead, Mr. Speaker, these guys are continuing to cover up the Epstein files. Republicans are deeming as passed, which means no debate, no hearing, no markup. They are deeming as passed a new fake Epstein resolution and killing their last fake Epstein resolution. All the while, we already have a real bipartisan bill to unseal all these files. It's the Massey Connor bill. And last night, every single Republican on the Rules Committee voted against that bipartisan bill. Every single one. And as if that's not bad enough, every single Republican on the Rules Committee also voted to create out of thin air a brand new committee to rewrite the history of what happened here on January 6, 2021. They are so desperate to paper over what happened that day, to whitewash it, and to pretend it was a normal tourist visit. I was here, Mr. Speaker, here in this chamber where you are sitting right now, and you can be damn sure I'm not going to let anyone pretend that January 6th was a normal tourist visit. But Republicans, the gentleman from Virginia included, refused to even display a plaque to honor the police officers who were here that day. I'm so sick of this BS about how Republicans support law enforcement. Mr. Griffith and every other Republican on the Rules Committee voted against displaying a plaque to honor the law enforcement officers who were here on January 6th. That plaque, Mr. Speaker, already exists. Congress already passed a law.
All right, yet again, a very busy day on Capitol Hill as congressional members actually state and or discuss all things with regard to legislative business. We'll continue to monitor that throughout the afternoon right here on the Live Zone. Well, it's a critical issue that is sparking intense debate across the nation. The need for Congress to reevaluate and cut certain federal funding allocations. As fiscal challenges loom and priorities shift, well, the discussion around where our taxpayer dollars should be directed is more important than ever. Some argue the reallocation of funds could strengthen vital programs. However, others warn that cuts could undermine essential services. Joining us to discuss this and so much more is Mr. Thomas Aiello. He is the Senior Director of Government Affairs for National Taxpayers Union. I should also make mention that he just published an op-ed this weekend in the Washington Examiner. It's a quick, insightful look at some of the possible tough choices Congress needs to make. And with that, I give you Mr. Thomas Aiello. Good afternoon, sir, and welcome to the show.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
But of course, so Thomas, let's just get right to the nitty gritty. In this case, we know that the national debt is now at, count 'em, $37 trillion. And I'm saying that with a T, trillion dollars. It doesn't look like it's going down anytime soon, sir.
No, it doesn't. $37 trillion is quite a lot of money. We're running $2 trillion annual deficits. That means we're spending more, $2 trillion more than we're taking in. So it's a real problem. And, you know, we do need to turn the fiscal ship slightly, right? We're not going to be able to fix our debt and our deficit overnight. We need to make incremental progress in order to start turning the ship slowly but surely. If not, we're headed for a debt calamity in the years ahead.
Yeah, let's talk about inflation, which apparently happens to be a major issue right here in America. You say that the debt bubble is the primary reason inflation surged, if you will, during the Biden years, a hidden tax that steadily erodes every paycheck.
Yeah, it's true. If you look at the numbers, the COVID spending spree, where we spent about $7 to $8 trillion in an 18-month period, it caused us to borrow so much more money than we typically had. And when you do that over such a short period of time, we have to borrow that money. And when we borrow, the Federal Reserve has to print. When they print, it degrades our paychecks. It makes our paychecks the same, but things cost that much more. So our solution is, one, we need to cut back how much we're deficit spending. In doing so, we'll be able to tame inflation. The way we look at it is there's about 4 or 5 short-term things we can do to reduce our federal deficits by about $800 billion a year. It's a lot of money. We just need to make sure we have the political will to do it.
So Thomas, let's talk about the tax credit and the possibility of us letting it expire. Do you see that happening?
Sure. What you're referring to is the expanded premium tax credit. This is an Obamacare, I should say, created this tax credit It was expanded in 2021 as part of that COVID spending spree by President Biden. It basically gives a tax credit for people that need an insurance up to 400% of the federal poverty line. For a family of four, it's $130-ish thousand you're eligible for this tax credit. It's subject to massive fraud and it's very costly. It costs an extra $30 billion a year and they expire at the end of this year. Our position is, one, we should let it expire for a number of reasons. We just cannot continue to afford these programs. Unfortunately, in $2 trillion a year deficits, we need to make tough choices, and this needs to be part of that conversation.
And
there's
perhaps
talk that it could be extended. We hope it's not.
Yeah, and perhaps new legislation could be put forth in this case, pursuing a deficit reduction reconciliation bill.
Yeah, that needs to be part of the conversation. There's a number of ways we can address how we do reduce our deficits. One is more rescissions packages from the president. We already did a handful. We should do much more. There's tens of thousands, tens of billions of dollars in savings that could be made available. Two, returning to pre-COVID spending levels. That'll save about $400 billion a year. And then another debt-focused reconciliation bill where we can find hundreds of billions of dollars in additional savings from the social safety net and then other really misguided spending programs that just don't have a lot of bang for the buck.
Let's talk about the clawbacks in this case, building on the Department of Government Efficiency, those clawbacks there.
So the president signed last month, or maybe about 8 weeks ago, a $9 billion rescissions package targeting foreign aid. That was a really good step in the right direction. But, you know, we really shouldn't jump up and down over a $9 billion cut when we're talking about $2 trillion annual deficits. We need a more holistic approach for how we address it. Yes, we should continue to claw back money, but if we really want to get to the root of the problem, we need to do it through the annual appropriations process, which is going on right now. Doing so, we'd be able to save about $400 billion a year. But, you know, we do need the appropriations, we need reconciliation, and we need rescissions. All told, together, we can save hundreds of billions of dollars. That's real money.
Thomas, as we wrap up, I want to give you an opportunity to chit-chat very briefly about your op-ed that we happen to know that is now published in the Washington Examiner. Do tell, sir.
Yeah, I think it just lays out everything we just talked about, right? Is we need to address our debt as soon as possible. There's a debt bubble coming over the next 7 to 10 years. And if we don't do anything today, if we don't do anything to fix the roof today when the sun is shining, we're going to be in for a real hurt over the next 7 to 10 years. Inflation is going to remain high, taxes are going to have to go up at some point, and then all of these social services that people rely on will have to get cut. Because if we don't do anything, that's going to be the reality. So we need to fix it today as soon as possible.
Yet again, we have been speaking with Mr. Thomas Aiello. He is the Senior Director of Government Affairs for the National Taxpayers Union. Sir, truly appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, folks, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Oversight and Investigations Committee is doing it right. They're going through it. And as I pointed out in my opening, Mr. Speaker, if they decide to use one of the limited areas that they could do a redaction, they have to explain why. And if the administration doesn't turn over some information, if they redact information before sending it to the House, they have to explain why. And of course, some of the information you want to protect, Mr. Speaker, is information related to victims that has not yet been in the press. Why would we want to take young women who were victims of Epstein and his colleagues, and they don't want to have their name in the press? Why would we suddenly expose them to that? Of course we don't want to do that. So there have to be some limited areas where redactions have to occur, but all of that has to be explained. And then they bring up the president's comments this morning about a hoax and are trying to mislead, in my opinion, some are trying to mislead the American people into thinking that the president said that Epstein and the investigation was a hoax. That's not what he said. If you look at what he said, it was the controversy over the Epstein files that was a hoax, because they've been releasing more data than any other administration. And I say that because the Biden administration had all this information and they didn't release it. They had 4 years. They could have released it all. Didn't choose to do it. And now my colleagues on the other side of the aisle somehow want to claim It's a conspiracy by Trump to hide information that was in the hands of their party's president, and their party's DOJ was in their hands, and they didn't release it. But somehow it's our fault, Mr. Speaker. It's the Republicans' fault that the Biden administration didn't do what they now claim that the Trump administration should be doing. It's hard to understand that logic, but somehow we are at fault, Mr. Speaker, for them not doing the job that they think we should have made their president do. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. And then, of course, we get to all the consternation about this J6 committee. This is an outgrowth of an investigation that started as a part of House admin. I served on the subcommittee that was doing that investigation, and it's really interesting. That group, and I was a part of it, found that there was more than 1 terabyte of missing data. Based on the inventory of the digest data and statements from Chairman Thompson, there should have been 4 terabytes turned over, and there were only 3. That's equivalent to 6.5 million document pages as PDFs or office files, 500 hours of high-definition video, or 250,000 photos. The depositions were not filed properly, or they weren't filed at all and archived as they are supposed to be, and as the rule that set up the prior committee said they were supposed to be there.
All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Well, perhaps you've heard that Nestle has fired its CEO after, just count them, 1 year on the job because, well, he failed to disclose a romantic relationship with a direct subordinate. Now, the Swiss food giant, as you know, which makes Kit Kat chocolate bars and, yes, those coffee capsules, well, they dismissed their CEO with immediate effect. Joining us to discuss this and so much more is Selena Rezvani. Who is she, you ask? Well, you should know. She's a Wall Street Journal best-selling author, LinkedIn top voice, and learning instructor. Oh, by the way, her new book entitled Quick Leadership, Build Trust, Navigate Change, and Cultivate Unstoppable Teams. She joins us right here on the Live Zone. Good to see you, Selena, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Guy.
But of course, I got to tell you, you are known for cutting through leadership cliches and giving managers the tools they actually need right now. Unfortunately for the CEO of Nestle, it's a little bit too late.
That's right. You know, look, the affair that he's had is the gossip fodder. And yes, it's breaking company policy. But the real story is a leader signaling, I operate above the rules. You know, accountability doesn't apply to me. And for employees, that can really kill your credibility as a leader, poison trust.
Yeah. You know, it's so interesting, and you just touched on that, and that happens to be accountability. But I would argue, and I think that you would possibly agree, that we have now ventured into an age where accountability is key. Those are the guys and gals at the top are now being held accountable for their actions. And you have 5 leadership mistakes that we, in essence, saw in the year of 2025 that you should absolutely, and I repeat, absolutely not repeat.
Yeah, one of them is what we saw here, which is leading with secrecy. And when you do that, in this case, the CEO kept something a secret that was against the rules, then denied it later. Well, what are you telling employees? That the truth is optional, right? And look, that's going to breed cynicism faster than any memo or policy ever will.
Yeah. One of the other things I love what you've stated is that the most powerful voice, as you have said so many times, doesn't necessarily mean it's always right. and when you really think about that, well, typically if you have the CEO speaking, he or she, at that time you're listening with all ears, but doesn't necessarily mean that they're getting across the right message and or behaving in the right manner.
Yeah, you're so right. And part of the thing that can kind of worsen that is when there's no culture in an organization of debate, you know, where it's okay to question, say, I have a concern about that. So I think that's really important. And one way to ward this off is not just having the most powerful voice be the loudest, but there's that culture of exchange. We can debate things, we can challenge each other, in the name of the best outcome.
Yeah. Selena, I got to tell you, in this business, there's a lot of ego involved. I mean, we're on TV day in and day out. Radio, the same thing. And I would argue at the top, yes, all the CEOs, you got to have an ego to lead to a certain extent. However, you state you should lead with strength and not ego. And I can tell you, you hit the nail right on the head with that one.
Yeah, this is so important to lead with that strength. And it's not just about puffing yourself up, right? It's amplifying others. So many leaders have this great opportunity to boost somebody else's stature, to amplify their voice, to turn down the exciting high visibility opportunity and suggest their protege or somebody else on the team, to share the limelight. And so I encourage that in my book, Quick Leadership. Enough with the gatekeeping and power hoarding. Let's do the power sharing. Let's create that shared ownership.
Yeah, and as a result, you will probably earn respect. You should not command it. And that's one thing that you say is key in order for a CEO to really be successful.
Absolutely. It's about collaboration and appreciating the diversity and the challenge of those other voices. Right? Because if you're the first one to speak, if you're the meeting dominator, people are going to quickly take a cue from that. It's not safe to contribute. I better hold back. I'm not going to say that I'm uncomfortable with the new direction. I'm going to keep that in. And that creates a culture of fear. It's the opposite of what you want for innovation and great problem solving.
Yeah, we've been speaking about the CEOs and perhaps their behavior, but this can really affect any and everyone. I want to really focus on, let's say, some of the employees or the lower level employees, and that is one of the things that I happen to be guilty of is the whole hustle culture thing. But you say, you know what? Wait a minute, we need to take another look at that.
We do. I know I've fallen victim to this at times in my own career, thinking this is paying my dues, where you're overworking, you're overextending, you're really grinding. And guess what? It doesn't always accelerate success. In fact, the opposite can happen. So I think a huge thing, high impact thing that leaders can do is encourage your employees to have that good, healthy work-life balance. Encourage them to use their time off. Don't drill them about it when they say they're taking that personal day. Say, go ahead, enjoy, rather than probing or looking for a reason code. Acknowledge and notice when they've been burning the midnight oil, they've been overextending on a project, and make them whole. Do something to compensate for that. I'd like to offer you a shorter work day on Friday because of all that you've done this week so far. There are so many ways that you can model this, even by what you yourself do. Leaving loudly, it's called, to go to your child's play, saying, I'm going to attend to not just my work life, but my personal life. I'm not going to hide that or downplay that I'm this whole person.
Yeah. I like that leaving early on Friday thing. I'll sign up for that immediately. We also know
it's
that
popular.
Oh, I tell you, I'll take it. We also know that within the workplace, we deal with different generations. So let's see, baby boomers, Generation X, millennials, Gen Z. I could just go on and on. But one of the things that, and as we wrap up, that you say we should focus on, or that, well, let's say CEOs should focus on, is really making each generation feel happy.
Yeah, look, you want to feel like you belong, like you are part of this organization. And right now there's a strong trend, at least in headlines, for people to criticize the youngest generation of workers, which happen to be Gen Z. Right? So many labels get thrown around with this group in particular: entitled, lazy, issues with soft skills. There are so many complaints, but I think we need to look at every generation for also what they bring. And in the case of Gen Z, they're bringing some healthy skepticism about old hustle culture ideas and norms. They're looking for growth opportunities that are meaty, that we can use and do today, not just promises of advancement 2 years from now. And these are things that I think can benefit all of us if we embrace them.
Yet again, we have been speaking with Selena Rezvani. She is a Wall Street Journal best-selling author. Oh, by the way, I should make mention the new book, Quick Leadership, Build Trust, Navigate Change, and Cultivate Unstoppable Teams. I absolutely love this. Selena, thank you so much for coming on the show. Some vital information and tips that you provided to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Guy.
You bet. All right, folks, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Last night point out that the Chinese are doing so much more with wind and solar, and they never mention that the Chinese are building dozens of new power plants as we speak, powered by coal. And so if we're going to use the Chinese as the model that we're supposed to follow in generating electricity, we should therefore not be closing down all of our coal power plants. And Mr. Speaker, as you know, the coal in the United States and the way that we burn it is much cleaner than the way the Chinese burn it in their plants. And we need to be working on making sure that we have new energy development, which the Energy and Water Bill does, energy ways that we can burn that coal and burn our natural gas even cleaner than we're doing it today, even though we produce electricity cleaner with our fossil fuels than any other country in the world. And guess what we can do, Mr. Speaker? If we can continue to move forward and build new plants and show how this new technology can be used, we can then be the ones exporting it to sub-Saharan Africa and to India instead of having the Chinese exporting facilities and the technologies that are from the 1960s and 70s instead of the technologies that are available today. When you talk about the air and the planet Earth, ladies and gentlemen, I have to tell you, Mr. Speaker, I have to tell you that the air is shared by all of us. In fact, there's a NASA study that I often cite that says it takes 10 days to get from the middle of the Gobi Desert to the eastern shore of Virginia, and that's why a majority of the mercury in California comes from Asia and not from the plants in California. It comes from overseas. And so the more we can do with our fossil fuel plants and our technologies to make our processes cleaner and then export it to the rest of the world, the more we can do to clean up the air in the world as a whole, because the air is not something that uniquely belongs to the United States. It doesn't sit over one town very long. Sometimes we get a little inversion in the Roanoke area and it sits there for a few days, but it doesn't sit there for weeks and months and years, and so we need to be looking at the worldwide issue in regard to that. So I make no apology for supporting bills that will take care of making sure that we can, in this nation, as a nation, all of us, profit and have the AI needed and have the electricity for data centers needed instead of giving it and ceding it to the Chinese because we don't want to work on oil, natural gas, and coal because somehow my colleagues on the other side of the aisle have decided that those resources are not appropriate to be used in the United States. And if we want to be a second-rate country, have at it.
All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. It is now 2 minutes past the top of the hour. Time for a little celebrity dish on a Wednesday. And joining us, as she does each and every Wednesday, hey, she's back. Poet Taylor, Midday Shenanigans on WPGC, joins us now on the LZ. Hello, my friend.
I missed your smile.
Oh, always good to see you, Poet. You always make me smile. And I got to tell you, you know who else is smiling? Cardi B. Why? Oh, she's jumping for joy after a civil trial that sparked a flurry of viral moments, Poet. Well, it really captivated internet audiences. A jury yesterday cleared rapper Cardi B of any legal liability after she was accused of assaulting a security guard back in 2018. Now, the jury in LA found that the security guard did not prove the elements of assault, negligence, or emotional distress. Cardi B then stating, you know what, I'm going to give you a pass this time, but if anybody, and I mean anybody, ever does this to me again, I will countersue. What say you?
He should have countersued this time and taught somebody a well-needed lesson. First of all, let's talk about how we got here. You were trying to film her at a doctor's appointment, which is illegal, trying to do what with it? And then when you got caught, you got mad and busted bad. I'm happy that everybody saw through this want for money, this run for money. And can we really get to the real question at hand, Guy? Cardi, do you have another nibbling on the way for me? That's what we really need. Like, you the one your case says, but what's really happening, and do I get a baby shower invite this time?
Yeah, we saw a reporter actually ask her that as she made her way out of the courtroom there, to which her response was, quite honestly, could draw another lawsuit. I think she threw something at him. So I don't think we need to ask Cardi that right now.
Oh, I'm asking all the questions because you can't throw nothing at me. Guy is going to protect me. And it's about how you act. So we're going to leave that right there. Cardi,
Yeah. Poet, I love you, but I got to tell you, a pin could be a missile, and when that happens, I'm out the way. In this case, we're going to move on to Hotline Bling to Hot Body Blues. Who am I talking about? None other than Drake, who's clapping back at plastic surgery allegations. During a recent interview, the rapper was asked if he got work done on his abs, to which he simply replied, no. Now, back in June, rumors about Drake getting work done began after a shirtless selfie he posted to IG went viral. So the question is, Poet, what do you think of men getting cosmetic surgery?
To my fellas, I want you to know that I'm cool with you getting a hair piece and whatever's going to make you feel great about yourself, because we've been adding pieces and doing things our entire lives. Now, the other is, I saw that picture in question, and you're not going to convince me that the rest of your body is marshmallow, and then somehow, if somebody got hair, they look airbrushed anyway. So again, know who you going to get your work done, so it looked like no work was done at all, if that's the story you want to run with. But great. You can't be no soft body with no 12-pack. And this is coming from a girl that, you know, is coming down from a 2-liter to a Coke bottle. I'm just saying.
There's nothing wrong with that, Poet. Quite honestly, I love kegs myself, so we can all celebrate. The marshmallow thing's really funny. Just don't put any hot cocoa near Drake, and I guess it'll be all good. Let's move on to scary news from actress Tracee Ellis Ross. Burglars apparently broke into her home and reportedly stole, get this, Poet, some $100,000 in jewelry and handbags. Fortunately, she wasn't home at the time. Now, her staff found that house ransacked just after midnight on Tuesday. The LAPD say 3 people entered through a glass door. Right now, police are poring over home surveillance footage. What are you thinking about this?
She need better friends of people cleaning her house, because that sounds like an inside job. One, you rich, so I know that your Ring camera a lot better than mine. Somebody managed to know what glass door to go through, where to go to get the purses in a house I ain't never been in. Who you been made not happy because I ain't getting no raise or something? Because that's what it sounded like.
Yeah.
Somebody was like, this is a movie. I'm going to leave this door open. Then you going to slide in. I can't wait to see what we hear about it. I bet you it's going to be somebody related to somebody got to somebody.
Yeah, well, she's not the first, Poet, with regard to her home or their home being burglarized in Los Angeles. We've seen this time and time again, specifically when they happen to be away and the public knows that they happen to be away. Let's say they're attending a movie premiere of some sort or something of the nature, and that's when, well, the burglar go ahead and makes that move.
Well, Guy, I'll say this again. People friends be friends. I watched the whole movie where there were whole nannies that had whole little meat, and they were all nannies for the people in the same area. I watch so much ID channel that I believe that everybody in on it, and you're not going to convince me otherwise. I believe somebody is in on this. And I guess this is to not announce when you're leaving, so people won't know that you're going, but your staff at your mansion will know that you're going.
Yeah. It sounds like common sense to me, Poet, and that's something that you and I have, but perhaps others don't have just that. Hey, we'll end with this, and that is Saturday Night Live recently announced, count them, not 1, not 2, but 5 new cast members ahead of its 51st premiere. Actor and comedian Ben Marshall, 1/3 of SNL's contributing comedy trio Please Don't Destroy, is officially signing on full-time. Other new castmates include comedian Cam. Of course, you can't forget about none other than TikToker Veronica. The news comes after 4 cast members announced last month that they were leaving the show. A lot going on with SNL, Poet.
Didn't make the list and I auditioned. I ain't got nothing to say except for we shall see how this works out for you. A lot of people want to hire based on popularity, and we're not hiring based on talent. Didn't Denzel clock that in an interview recently? So let's see what all these changes get them. Will it bring us the SNL that we fell in love with? Or will we get what we're getting in a lot of places where people are going with who they think will draw viewership, but not necessarily caring about the quality that they giving folks? That's where I am.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of SNL, and I just hope it's funny, because I got to tell you, as of late, it really hasn't been that funny at all, at least to me. So we'll leave it at that. Hey, Pope, before I let you go, I know you're always working on something. What do you got coming up?
Legends and Legacy at the Wharf. Shout out to my Fox 5 family. Y'all highlighted it earlier today. We're going to take over the wharf. We got Jamel Hill, Monica McNutt, all of our players and teams, and we're really celebrating women in sports. We're going to do a live watch party together of the women's final of the U.S. Open. It's absolutely free from 12 to 6. You can do activations, learn how to get your golf game up, flirt a little bit, win some things, and it's all about me continuing to center joy and fellowship and community in real time. And I love that I get to work with Events DC and other folks to be able to do just that. If you follow me, full details in my IG stories. When you see me, roll up, hug me. A good time will be had. It's our second year, and I can't wait for the years to come that we get to do this and shift, not as just talking about women and girls in sports, but really doing the things that bring business, women and girls in sports, culture, community all together so we grow together.
No doubt. Poet, and you do it oh so well. And by the way, those folks are going to be joining me tomorrow right here on the Live Zone, I believe, in the 1 o'clock hour. So I'm really excited about that. So, Poet, truly appreciate you. Gotta run.
Too. I got a whole show to do. Love you.
Make sure you check out Poet on WPGC Midday Shenanigans. But she joins us every Wednesday right here on the Live Zone. All right, folks, going to take it back to Capitol Hill where House members are holding a press conference surrounding the stock trading bill. Let's take a look at.
Why? Because the opportunity for corruption is just so great. When members of Congress decide how to vote on a bill, they should be voting based on what they think is best for the American people, not what is best for their investment accounts. When members of Congress come here, they should not be able to profit off of inside information that the average American and the average market participant does not have access to. Now, I am very grateful to everyone on this stage for having the courage to do the hard thing and stand up for reform. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Those of us who support banning stock trading in Congress are very vocal in our position. But that doesn't mean that there aren't opponents. It's just that the opponents don't say it so vocally, but they say it quietly behind closed doors, and they're very persistent, believe me. And so it takes courage, and it takes, I think, a real maturity for members who, you know, to be frank, everybody on the stage probably doesn't always agree with each other on very much. But one of the things that we all understand is that in order for legislating to work, in order for Washington to work, we need to be able to put aside our differences every once in a while and work together where we can in the interest of the American people. I want to give just a few quick shout-outs before handing it to the next speaker. And if there are questions about the details of the bill, we're happy to do that in the Q&A. This bill is the product of a lot of people putting in a lot of hard work. And in my view, this bill is far superior to any bill on this topic that has been introduced so far, including our own that I introduced with Chip. This is the product of a lot of negotiation and also a lot of listening to experts and to members about what can work. This is a bill that can pass and should pass. And as Chip called out some of the prominent Republican leaders who have been supportive of this effort, I'll call out a few of the Democratic members, starting with our own leader, Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem has been steadfast on this. He was the first member of first leader of either party in either chamber to come out in support of a stock trading ban. I've been in regular conversation with him, as I know Pramila and others have as well. He is with us in this effort. I want to give a big shout out to all of the Democratic members on this stage, particularly Pramila Jayapal, who has been leading on this issue for years and who I have enjoyed working with and learned a lot from through this process. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Dave Min, Raja Krishnamurthy, who's been leading on this for some time. I know that we have, I think that's all that's actually here today, but others who have been supportive of this as well, here in spirit. And I also want to give a shout out to Abigail Spanberger. Abigail, as Chip noted, was an early leader on this issue, an early initiator of this movement. And although she has left us for other pastures, I know that she is very pleased with the progress that we have been making. So with that, the time has come. Let's get it done. And I'm going to turn it over now to someone else who's been a great partner as we've been meeting through the spring and the summer, Representative Fitzpatrick.
Seth. Good afternoon, everybody. It's not every day you see this cast of characters up here. These are all smirking out there, but that's a good thing, and it speaks to the power of this cause. How did we get here? pretty much everyone up here had their own version to accomplish the same goal. Myself and Alexandria and Raja had a bill, Anas had a bill, Burchett has had a bill, Seth, Chip, Pramila, Scott, you've been co-sponsoring a lot of these bills. I mean, every single one. And Seth came to my office, was that earlier this cycle? As you did to all the individual bill authors, and said, can we find a way to merge all these bills together? And that's, in fact, what's happened here. Many of you knew I spent my entire career before here as an FBI agent. When I came here, it wasn't a revelation. It confirmed what I already knew, that members of Congress have access to inside information. Period. End of story. And that being the case, a lot of opponents to this will say, well, we already have insider trader laws on the books. This is why it's different. If you're a typical run-of-the-mill insider trading case, you're sitting on a company board, you have access to one company's information that is imminent, that's been voted on or about to be voted on by a board. Members of Congress, just by being on the floor of the House, have a much more clear purview being behind the curtain of whether a CR is going to pass or not, whether there will be a government shutdown, is AI regulation going to pass or not. Just a much clearer sense for the likelihood, the probability of things coming to fruition or not coming to fruition. And for anybody in this institution to trade off that information is illegal and unethical, both. We are dealing with the ethics piece. The criminal law will remain on the books. But this ethics bill, and that's what this is a culmination of the efforts of everybody here on the stage. And I'm very, very proud to stand in partnership with each and every one of them, because this is beyond an 80-20 issue. This is a 95-5 issue, and the 5 that are against it are probably in this institution day trading. So we're going to, and by the way, we will find a way to get this to the floor one way or another, and we will leave it at that. There are multiple pathways to get a bill to the floor. We are not going to let another Congress pass without getting this done. And with that, I yield, and I will call up my classmate from the 115th Congress, Pramila Jayapal.
Thank you so much, Brian, and thank you to everyone. This has been, as you've heard, the product of many years of work. And I remember back in 2020 when I introduced my first bill on this topic with Elizabeth Warren and a number of Republicans as well. I think it was Matt Rosendale at the time. We have continued to do the work to try and bring these bills together, because we know that sometimes what happens in this place is if there are multiple bills on a subject, leadership that may not want us to move forward says, we got too many bills, we can't decide. So we did the work of negotiating with each other. We brought in experts to make sure, including experts that manage money and know what the loopholes are that we needed to make sure were fixed. And I think we are doing the simplest thing that we can do in many ways. It is the simplest thing that the American people want, which is to know that their member of Congress represents them and not their own pocketbooks. And that's really what this is about. Brian talked about insider trading and the information we get. We also should know that people are taking votes on issues where they're not thinking about their own stock portfolio. At the core, this is really about public trust. And public trust right now in government is at an all-time low. And there's a good reason for that, because people don't know who we represent. So let's make this really, really clear. This bill gets around many of the loopholes that existed before in some of the other pieces of legislation. There's real accountable fines here, where perhaps when you make your first mistake, that's a pretty low fine. But after that, there is a 10% penalty and disgorgement of profits, which is really, really important, because there needs to be some way to hold people accountable. And we know that there are a lot of places that essentially trade on their ability to get us to do certain things that benefit big corporations out there, benefit our own pockets. And so I'm really excited that we're in this place. We've been here before on the stage, actually with several of us that have been here over time, but I do feel like this is different this time. I feel like we are really at a place where we brought all the bills together, and we are going to, as Brian said, we are going to get it to the floor, whether it's through whatever process that looks like. So I want to thank all of our, trying to be vague here, all of our friends on both sides of the aisle that have been really clear about standing up for the American people, standing up to make sure that we represent them and not our pocketbooks. And with that, it's a great honor to introduce my colleague, Representative Tim Burchett.
Proud Paul, thank you, ma'am. Cortez, Luna, gentlemen. It's kind of funny when you deal with this stuff. And I talked to the ethics people the other day. Everybody knows I make these crazy skateboards, and people asking, "Hey, sell me a skateboard." So I said, "Well, let me go check it out with ethics." I literally got to get attorneys involved to sell a dadgum skateboard. But if I want to do insider stock trading, just get elected to Congress. Really. I mean, let's just be honest. Look, everybody ought to do like I do. Get their $12,000 portfolio in a mutual fund. Let my buddy Tommy Seiler handle it. He does pretty well. Although my daughter's going to school now, so I'll be cashing that out very soon. But look, we're public servants. We're stewards of the community. Nobody's above the law. You hear that? It's kind of become cliche up here. But for years, members of Congress, we know they've gotten rich using hardworking American taxpayers' money. Members sit on committees. We attend private meetings where we gain privileged information about companies. Congress appropriates money to economic sectors that may overlap with members' own portfolios. I call it the war pimps a lot. I worry about us voting on wars that we're going to send our kids off to that we couldn't even find on a dadgum globe, and members haven't owned stock in those things. The American taxpayer always gets the short end of the stick, and Congress seems to profit at their expense. This body has been enriching itself on the taxpayer's dime, and dadgummit, it's got to stop. The President's already said he would sign a bill banning stock trading for members of Congress if passed. I think the real test is going to be whether Congress has the guts to stand up and do what's right. And I'm proud of all these people up here. I don't agree with some of these people on anything. If Cortez told me the sun was coming up tomorrow, I'd go out and check it out. But she's my buddy, and I'm proud to stand up on the stage with that. And now I will introduce my friend Cortez. Come up and speak. Thanks, Cortez.
Thank you, Tim. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. I gotta say, I know it was, what was it, like 6 or 7 years ago now, Chip, that you and I were elected here. And one of the first conversations that Representative Chip Roy and I had to do with money in politics, I remember, and just in general. And, I think that this issue has brought so many of us across the political spectrum together because we are united by the value that people should feel that their elected representative puts them and their interests first, and that we are here first and foremost to do the job that the public has sent us to do. And, in many ways, I feel like this press conference and this podium shouldn't necessarily be facing out here. I don't think we need to sell the American people on this. We need to be turning it around and making sure that we get this thing past the post. And I want to thank Congressman Roy for the effort you've put in this Congress specifically to move this forward. And every year we've been getting closer, and I do believe, as we said, that this year we're going to get the vote. And I also want to thank Brian Fitzpatrick as well for, for some of the work that we've done in co-sponsoring our original bill on this. But it's very rare, I feel, in Washington that when we bring multiple stakeholders and folks together to negotiate on a bill, that you leave that room feeling like the bill got better. A lot of times it feels that we'll get to an agreement and we're holding our nose to get something past the post. But I genuinely feel in this process that in putting all of our bills together, we've actually ended up with a product that is legitimately stronger than the sum of its parts. And it is one of those rare moments where I feel like Washington is working the way that it's supposed to work, and it feels foreign, and it feels alien, and It's like, what's going on here? But I also think it is proof that, that things can work here. And when we put our disagreements aside, of which of course there may be many, but we focus on the things that we have in common, we can make our country better, we can make this institution better, and we can increase and earn the faith of the American people, which is really genuinely the core of our work here. And so to that end, I want to thank everyone for their incredibly hard work. We are going to get this done. It requires standing up against the powers that be, but because of the support of the American people on this issue, you all have generated the momentum necessary to give us the power to be able to do this. And I look forward to bringing this to a vote. I look forward to banning the trading of individual stock on the floor and by members of Congress. And I'm looking forward to making this place a better place that puts the American people first. So thank you all so much.
Thank you for everyone for being here. As you know, the group behind us has been very vocal on this topic, and not to reiterate what Chip Roy had stated, but I think it's 95% of Americans support this. I sometimes feel like an adjudicator in this job, so I guess I'll be the one to say that we've asked nicely for leadership to put this on the floor. If they don't, I'm saying timeline is end of month. There's a discharge petition prepared and ready to go. I think it's very clear where the White House stands on this. I don't speak for the White House, but the president has stated that he supports banning this because it is corrupt. Frankly, the fact that members are getting, plus 600% returns on their investments is wrong. But more importantly, how could you ever be expected to represent your constituents when you're clearly worried about your pocketbook? And so that's why we're here today. Again, thank you to Representative Burchett because he helped work on that discharge. But we are very hopeful that this will be brought to the floor in regular order. And we look forward collectively to deliver this win to the American people.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you so much to Seth and Chip and all the people on this stage. Look, this is a message to our colleagues, okay? You may have traded up till now. You may have operated within the confines of the law and the rules and the regulations. This is your chance to do the right thing. This is your chance to do the right thing. We're not going to judge what you did before now. But now that this bill is going to come to the floor, and we're going to make sure of that, it's your chance to get right with the American people. Because at the end of the day, Congress is not a casino, it's not a stock exchange, it's not a betting parlor. The only bet we should be making is on the American people. We can't serve the American people and the public interest at the same time that we're serving our stock portfolio. Please, fellow members, we're not judging you, but now is the time to do the right thing. When 95% of your colleagues, the constituents in your districts and the American people want this, anything else would be going against their best interests and the best interests of the country. Thank you. And now, Scott.
So, look, a lot of the country there's a lack of trust in the government, and this is an opportunity to earn some of that trust back. And quite honestly, when many Americans say, why can't any of you people get together on anything? Up here you have the left and the right standing on the stage for the same issue, for the same cause, which should be an indicator to everybody that this is absolutely the right. This is one of the times when the American people and Congress can get a win. And I would just say, I would sum it up this way. Nobody drafted anybody. Nobody made you run for Congress. You decided you wanted to serve and you ran. Well, coming to Washington, D.C. and serving isn't about what you can get. It's about what you can give. And so I thank the leaders for their courage to bring this and push it and be doggedly about it forever and ever to make sure it gets done. God bless you.
Look, the reality is there are 200 million reasons why this bill needs to come to the floor. That's how much members of Congress profited, and a small minority of members of Congress profited from insider trading. I just came to Washington last cycle. I beat an incumbent who had been trading on the Financial Services Committee. And this isn't a Republican or a Democrat issue. Look at the folks behind us. This is a group of individuals who are fighting because it is unfair that members of Congress are trading on insider information and performing 60% better than most of the trading companies in New York City. The reality is this. We have all had great ideas. We led the Stock Act as one of our first bills. Chip has been able to bring together a team from both the left, the right, and everybody in between to be able to put something forward that actually provides integrity back to what this place so desperately needs. The draining of corruption, the holding accountability of elected officials, and most importantly, giving back a little bit of trust to the American people, that the people who are up here fighting for you are actually delivering. And as Anna Luna just highlighted, the shot clock starts right now. We can end insider trading. We can help restore integrity to government, and this team right here is the one who's going to help get it done this cycle. I'm so proud of everybody who's been working on this, and I'm privileged to be part of this team. Thanks, Chip.
So if you want to come up here and we'll field some questions on these specifics. I do want to say one thing, though. While I'm proud to work with everybody here and have been proud to be on this issue for a long time, Seth did an enormous amount of the legwork to bring all this group together and went around office by office. Everybody has been doing this together. Anna and Tim have been working hard to try to put pressure to get it to the floor. I think all of us have been working on this together jointly to get this done. So I just want that to be very clear. Yeah.
Thank you. Could you please talk about how, if at all, this would impact the White House and the executive branch if this bill were passed?
This legislation focuses on Article 1. It focuses on Congress. Now, there's a great deal of support. I don't want to speak for everybody collectively. I think there's a great deal of support for the executive branch also being, subject to the provisions that we want to put forward. We think all three branches. It ought to be very clear that nobody's benefiting from trading stocks while they're making judgments and leading and executing. This bill, though, I think rightly focuses on Article 1, so we can look at our colleagues and say we should take care of ourselves. Yep.
Congresswoman Luna said that if this bill isn't put on the floor by the end of the month, that she'd put forward a discharge petition. Are both of you prepared to support that discharge petition? Is that the same timeline you envision?
I'll let Seth speak to that. Look, my view is right now, the Speaker said he supports it, the President, Secretary Bessent, this group, large numbers of members of Congress. We've been very clear that we expect to vote. So we would like to see this move, and I'll let Anna speak to it herself, but I'd like to see this move through regular order. We expect it to move through regular order. And if it doesn't move through regular order, then we'll decide what we need to do to make sure that it gets a vote. But it will get a vote.
Yeah, I'll just say, I certainly don't speak for every Democratic member, just for myself.
All right, guys, there you have it. You don't see that every day. Bipartisan members agreeing on the stock trading bill. We'll continue to keep a close eye on that right here on the Live Zone throughout the remainder of the show. Well, when it comes to dining out, it's becoming a thing of the norm. Cell phones becoming the star of the meal. You've seen it. I've seen it. Whether it's being on it when it's time to eat or taking so many pictures that it's distracting to you and your fellow diners. For many, they would prefer cell phones aren't present when it's time to dine. Now, one restaurant is doing just that, banning cell phones within their restaurant. It's known as Hush Harbor. The restaurant officially opens on Friday, September 5th, making it DC's first phone-free bar. It just sounds weird for me to say. Joining us to discuss it and so much more is, hey, my guy is back, Chef Rock Harper, Hell's Kitchen alum and the man who's spearheading this entire effort. Rock, always good to see you, my man. Welcome back to the show.
Good to be with you, Guy. It's always a pleasure, man. Thank you for having me.
But of course, you got the DMV talking, Rock, and you've always done that. But in this case, you're doing it in a rather different way. Now, over the last several months, you have been hosting a phone-free event at the in the H Street corridor, and I'm curious. You got a chance to see how folks were reacting when they didn't have a phone, and so I guess you said, you know what, we're going to do it bigger and better.
Yeah, I've really been interested in what it's the phone, but it's distraction-free hospitality environment would look like. And I'm not the first, sort of chef or artisan, if you will, to really go down this lane. We always, as hospitality professionals, want you to be present and enjoying the experience. But I wanted to see what it looked like. And my friend Lamont King and I, we hosted a series of events. And many people were scared. Many people were afraid. Many people were like, I'm not giving you my phone. We don't take it. But at the end of the experience, we had maybe two people that went to check their phone. And one of the events went over, almost 2 hours. So, we're just a bridge to the other side. We just want to be hot. We're not trying to be punishing anybody or tell you that you should get rid of his phone. We just want to serve you as best we can.
Rock, correct me if I'm wrong, but upon entering, your phone will be placed in a magnetic lock, if you will. You're allowed to carry it around with you, but you're not going to be able to get a chance to see it. Oh, is that it right there? Yeah, hold it up to
That's
the
it,
camera,
my
Rock.
man. We
Let
got
me
the-
see it again.
we-
Oh, wow.
So we got the bag with my son right there.
Okay.
And we'll put it in the bag, and like he said, we throw it in the bag. We throw it in the bag, and and it's locked. And then I got to get my lock. It's upstairs, and if you need it, it's tight. So if you feel it vibrating, the babysitter is maybe calling you. Like, it'll take 10 seconds to go to the host and unlock, and then you can step out and use it. Like, it's not, we're not taking the phone. So we don't. Again, a lot of chatter has been about, us preaching. We're not preaching or trying to change anybody's position. All we're doing is asking you to allow us to serve you in this way. So very nice and tight, and keep it away for a little bit, and you see what happens. Watch the magic.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Rock, I actually like this. One, it's not as if I'm venturing into this not knowing what I'm going or what I'm about to see and or deal with. I mean, I know that I can't bring my cell phone there. Two, I'm curious, as a chef, you put so much work into the preparation of food, and I've seen it time and time again. You're working countless hours, the food comes out, and guess what? I'm not even paying attention to it, because guess what I'm doing? I'm yet again on my phone. That's got to be so bothersome to you as a chef.
I have a rule that, you pay for it, you can do whatever you like with it. I've always had the rule, it goes back to B. Smith's, like, I'm a hospitality professional. So, of course, I want you to enjoy it. But if your phone eats first, and that's how you best enjoy your experience, I get it. But as a true creator of culinary arts, of course, I want you to serve it. I want you to eat it in the time, in the way that it was intended to be served. So it bothers me, because I know it possibly could be that much better if you focused on it. And it's not just the taste, right? It is all the environment. It's the walls, the tapestry, the server and their explanation, and the music and the lighting. All of that is part of the hospitality experience. You can cook at home. Guy, I know you can cook. You might be able to make a better steak than a brother. But that's not why you come to us. You come to us to experience everything, including your guests, or even if you're with yourself. So, yeah, it bothers me a little bit, but we want you to have the best possible experience that you can. And many times that means you eat first, and then, feed the phone later.
Yeah, you made mention of experience, and in this case, it's the experience you will have within the restaurant. But you touched on it very briefly, Rock, and that is the experience with those that you are sitting down dining with. Yet again, I cannot tell you how many times I sit down, or we're hanging out, we haven't seen each other in a while, and what are you doing? You're on that phone. I can't even have a conversation with you. So you have created an environment where that's a must, and it will happen.
Yeah, Guy. It's so interesting. So the term hush harbor, for everybody that doesn't know, it was introduced to me by my mother, and she was, a couple of years ago, she told me about our ancestors who were held in captivity here used to create spaces to convene out deep in the woods, right? And usually that was to practice their form of spirituality, but also was just to gather and meet offline, if you will, with no distractions. And obviously times now are different than they were then, right? We're not under the threat of, being killed for having this meeting, but the idea that we still need to have hush harbors, right? These offline spaces of gathering or opportunities for gathering still exist. And many times, we all just want to be seen, valued, and heard. Like, that's all what we want. And when we have this thing in our way, and I'm guilty of it too, don't get me wrong, right? So staff will abide by this as well. I'm pretty sure people hate to walk into a restaurant and feel like they're interrupting somebody on their phone just to ask for a latte or a gin and tonic. And what we want to do is, again, for everyone, allow the opportunity for presence, connection, and community. And we feel like, this is a way to push in that direction.
Yeah, Rock, I'm playing devil's advocate here, and I got to be honest with you. There have been a number of restaurants that I would not have paid a visit to had I not seen someone post a picture of the food on Instagram. And so what do you say to that, to the potential to perhaps lose some business and or folks that would visit you because they're not going to get a chance to maybe see that food, that the amazing work that you put together on the gram?
That's a very interesting thing. And I think that we're at a time where, again, I'm not trying to prove this position to anyone, but we have to reestablish and renegotiate our relationship with technology and social media. You know, content creators and the people that build these algorithms understand that they're there to keep us engaged and not necessarily to educate and enlighten and make our lives easier. That they do that sometimes. But how often is it that you've seen something that looks incredible on Instagram? No shade, no tea, as they would say, and you show up and it's garbage, right? Or it's mid, as they say, right? So again, Instagram, social media can lie, and it does often, right? You know, we have this picture perfect idea of our lives, and we put that on Instagram. Don't get me, you know, I'm not showing my flaws. I don't even go on it that much, but so to that. I think I'm willing to take that risk because here's why. I'm willing to take the risk, and I'm betting on people. I'm betting on humans that have always shared their experience with others, right? We don't have that many more people in this country than we did 20, 30 years ago. It's not that many more people. Businesses were booming 20, 30 years ago. So the question not is how do we share it on Instagram? The question for us internally and to our guests is how do we create an experience that make other people want to talk about it in ways that are just not, or maybe they talk about it on Instagram. Maybe the listening, the sharing is writing because people ain't reading no more. Maybe you're writing about it or doing a video about your experience, and now we're igniting the imagination. Like, oh, I wonder what it looks like, as opposed to we have this thing that has us locked in. I'm sorry, I'm preaching, but the short answer is I'm not sure. We will see.
Yeah.
The longer answer is I'm willing to take that risk on the human beings that we serve and the people that I work with, that we will create a great experience that is worth talking about.
I got to tell you, I absolutely love it. And furthermore, I would argue that you're one of the best with regard to chef-wise, the food that you put together and you put forth.
Thank you,
So
brother.
that's what the focus, in my opinion, should really be, how great the food is. But I guess as a side note, everybody and their mama, as we stated, happen to be talking about what will occur when you come to dine on your amazing food.
I appreciate you, God. Listen, you have been serving us with your genius and your talent for, I want to say, decades now, right? And, you know, we want to continue in that vein in what you're doing and giving the people what they want. And this is just an opportunity for us to, you know, I was asking myself, like, how can we, you know, serve better, right? And this is the answer to that. This is one of the ways, and it'll continue to evolve. And we got to get you down here. You know, you're always welcome wherever I am. I appreciate you, bro.
No doubt. Yet again, Hush Harbor opening September 5th. Rock, instead of me doing it, how about you sell it? This upcoming September 5th. Do tell.
September 5th, we are open the doors, 1337 8th Street Northeast in the historic 8th Street corridor. We have an excellent happy hour, maybe the best in the city, who knows, and some phenomenal, I'm going in my B. Smith's bag, for those of y'all that know, you know, to bring out some of our favorites. We have the Cajun red beans and rice served with cornbread, little braised kale, and some other goodies, a shrimp remoulade and a southern charcuterie board. We're really going to pull out all the stops, but the most important part is you, the people, and us. And I'm excited September 5th to be in community and to be connected with everybody. I hope to see you there.
Absolutely love it. That's my friend, Chef Rock Harper, joining us right here on the
Thank
Live
you,
Zone.
brother.
I truly appreciate your time. Congratulations, my man.
Thank you. See you
All
soon,
right.
guy.
We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Inside the building, it's been a great, I gotta say, like a great collaboration. I'm only in my second term, I'm relatively new here. I hadn't worked with several people on the stage before, but every time we met, people came prepared. We in a painstaking way, went through every possible issue or concern that we could think of. And everybody here, you know, surrendered some of their own time of limelight, surrendered some credit, worked together because we just care about getting something done. So I gotta give a great amount of credit to everybody who's been working on this. It's been a very good group to work with, and we're determined to get this done.
Thanks, everybody. We've got to go vote. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone with, hey, my guy is back. Producer Chris with Do You Like It or Not preview for tonight.
I'm fascinated by Chef Rock Hudson and this idea of having this phone-free restaurant. So many restaurants lately, I feel like have thrived on the idea of this influencer culture and relying on people taking pictures of their food and tagging the restaurant, and then you find out where to go from that. But this is a very interesting concept, and you know, I know there's a lot of different opinions out there on the idea of going phone free, but I do think there's this, and I was talking about it with Tony P last night, and you know Tony P, I mean, he is a content creator, he is an influencer, his phone is his livelihood, and he was saying that he needs a reason to put his phone down. Wow. And like, you know, when we talked about schools that have started doing this too, like I do think to a certain extent, you need to be forced to set your phone down, and forcing kids to be a little bored or having to get creative with what they want to do is not the worst idea in the world. Yeah. The only thing that like stands out to me is like I feel like it should be more of a like culture of shame, where if you have your phone out, like everyone boos and hisses at you and you're a little bit judged. It's the idea of having to lock it away. Yeah. That, you know, those are the sort of times where like
but he did say you can exit, and then there's a staff member right there to go ahead and open it up for you.
I think that's a good idea. But also, if you were an employee there, I mean, can you imagine having to go your whole shift without looking at your phone?
Once upon a time, we did that, Chris.
Once upon a time. I mean, I remember when I worked at a bar back in the early 2000s, 2004, 5, 6 area type of a thing. Back in the day of like flip phones, and you'd like do one of these underneath the bar type of a thing. You had it in your little like apron. Man, how times have changed.
All right. Well, we got about 2 minutes left, and I want to get a chance to talk about what you're going to talk about tonight.
Well, I'm still working on my rundown, but one of the things that I woke up and saw this morning was a new episode of the New Heights podcast. And why I'm talking about this is because for all the Swifties out there who I'm sure beat me to it by several hours, Taylor Swift's fiance, Travis Kelce, finally opened up more about the proposal, the engagement, getting to introduce Taylor as his fiance for the first time at that Cincinnati football game they were spotted at afterwards. Wow. Jason asked him all about, you know, what it was like, how he came up with the idea, how it all played out. So you can catch that streaming now on that new episode of the New Heights podcast. And the one thing that really stood out to me in the conversation that they had was Travis basically saying, you need to know your partner well, because he says the proposal that he did is not the one he would have pictured doing.
Really?
Until he met and got to know Taylor Swift. Wow. So a little advice, a little relationship advice for anyone out there who might be thinking about popping the question.
Yeah. Speaking of popping the question, and you're obviously married, but you made mention of him introducing her as his fiance for the first time. Was that hard? Meaning, obviously, you know, you ended up marrying your wife, but...
Can I tell you a really funny story? So the next day, I proposed on a Friday night. The next day, Saturday, we were coming back from a pumpkin patch where, you know, we didn't meet anybody or see anybody. We walked into our apartment, and one of our former coworkers was walking out of my apartment. She had a friend in there, and I had this moment of like, this is my fiance, and got to say it for like the first time. And it was like this really crazy feeling. And they even joke about in the podcast about how for some reason it just carries a little more weight than saying like my girlfriend. And they referenced the John Mulaney skit, which I highly recommend you check out, where he talks about like, you know, just getting to go up into like an airport line and being like, this is my wife, this is my fiance, they're not like just like my girlfriend. So it's a pretty funny conversation that they have. But yeah, it definitely hits a little different, and I had to like remember sometimes to like, especially when it was wife.
Oh yeah.
As opposed to like girlfriend or fiance.
One of the many things he will discuss tonight at 7:30 on Do You.
And you can join the conversation just by scanning the QR code. We'll post it a little later.
Good stuff. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. All right, guys, just like that, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Time for our Wednesday Talkers. Hump Day! With Annie Mae.
That was like that really took it all out of me. It was really deep from the core. You know?
I could tell. It was a lot of coming out there.
You really gotta get under it.
All right, let's get to it. We're having fun already, as you can tell. In this case, hey, according to a newly released study, and by the way, these are some of the stories that you folks are talking about at home, Americans are making big life choices with vibes, not logic, Annie Mae.
Me.
You see, according to the study, more and more Americans aren't using common sense, but instead their gut feelings, prayers, and, as you heard me state, pure vibes. But wait, there's more. 2 in 5 Gen Zers based their choices on social media posts, and 71% of all respondents said they have 0 regrets about their decisions as a result.
So, like, what kinds of decisions are these? Like, are these like where to go to dinner?
Uh-huh.
Or are these like, oh, should I take this job or not? Because I feel like I wouldn't be like on vibes deciding if I want a job or not.
Yeah.
I'd be like, what's the pay? That's how I decide. But on the other hand, like going to dinner, like I would totally trust somebody on social media.
Yep.
If I'm trying to change, like, here's a perfect example. If I'm trying to change like a hair product and I want a new hair product, I'll go on social media and I'll take somebody who's like, oh, I really like this hair
Yep.
product. I'll totally go and do it. If I'm looking for something else, I'm not going to just blindly trust people. Like I know Angie, Marina, and Homa were all talking about this new mascara that they like, and so I was like, oh, like if I'm looking for a new mascara, like I'll go and try that one.
Yeah.
You know, so things like that.
But to that point, I saw that video.
Yeah.
Marina posted it on social media, by the way.
Yeah.
And so it was somewhat influential. Meaning, when I saw it, I'm like, wow, first of all, I don't care. But
Yeah.
like, okay, so what's this mascara that everybody's talking about?
Yeah.
So as a result, I could see that really somebody making a decision to move forward with it.
Yeah. People that I trust, I'm therefore like, it doesn't matter. I don't even have to trust you on social media. It's just some random person that goes, oh, this is my top 5, favorite show or whatever. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
Like, I just trust a rando.
But vibes, I don't know. Maybe if you know you're going to buy a house and then you view like, I don't know, 4 or 5 homes.
Yeah.
And then that one home, you just get like
You
that
just get vibe. Yeah. It's your gut
that makes
feeling.
sense. But not, I'm just going to buy a home.
I think you should think, but I do think you should trust your gut.
Yeah.
100%. If like vibes are good, gut feelings there, lock it in. Don't make willy-nilly decisions. Like,
I love that.
That's the thing. Don't make silly decisions.
Yeah,
you know?
it's all vibes right
It's all
here.
vibes,
Thank
all
you very
vibes.
much. Hey, in a relationship, especially when it's new, according to a newly released study, save the sweet talk, guys. Women prefer men to do this instead. And just what is this? Well, apparently it's acts of service, small acts of service, I should add. Like, let's say, helping out with the chores, cooking a meal. These simple behaviors sometimes are overlooked in today's bizarre dating world with, well, let's just say many saying, you know what, we're just tired of you saying, I miss you, and hey, boo-boo, how are you? Instead, they'd rather you grab a broom and start sweeping away there, guys.
Oh my God, I would love for my boyfriend to clean. But neither of us clean. I'm not
Really?
a cleaner. No, I'm not. I'm a pay for convenience kind of person. And if
Yeah.
it means that I don't have to clean my apartment, I'm going to pay somebody to do it. And like, I understand that not all people can do that and not all
Right.
people want to do that. I understand that. I can. So I will. Like, I'm just not I'm not a cooker. I'm not a cleaner.
Yeah.
He's the chef between the two of us.
Oh, that's awesome.
But one thing I've learned, I feel like in like relationships is like, I always expect all these things. And then I'm like, okay, but I don't expect me to do those other
Yeah.
things. So I'm like, oh, maybe
But
I
as you're
should
growing,
do. But
yeah,
maybe
that's-
I need to do that if I expect that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I shouldn't just like expect it. I should like say something if I want it.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people expect things.
Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
it doesn't work out. But to your point,
Like-
you have growth, and you're like, hey, I realize that.
Maybe
you know.
I should do it too. Before asking somebody else to do it. Like, oh,
But you have to spend time though with that other person in order to provide small acts of service. Because I would really rely on the whole nice words thing, like I miss you, can't wait to see you. I think you should probably still do that, but at the same
Yes.
time, I get it. Like
Yeah.
I remember the other day I was helping out at the pool. My friend has a pool, and so I'm running around cleaning up, and I remember she was just like, "Oh my gosh, just thank you so much for that." And I was like, "Wow, I was just doing what I was doing."
Oh my God, a thank you goes a long way.
Right.
It really does. A thank you goes a long way, especially in like kind of a thankless business. You
Yeah.
know? A thank you goes a long way. You
Yeah.
know? I love to be gassed up though. like let's not get it twisted. Like I need you to tell me I'm awesome and that you love me. Like let's not get it twisted. That in addition to everything else.
And then the acts of service.
Right? And then that. My boyfriend gives me flowers, so that's fine.
Oh gosh.
I'm like, okay.
Let's wrap up with this. Apparently, here we go. It's the battle of the the errors? I guess Gen Z versus millennials. Is that what we
Oh,
call
gosh,
it? In this case,
generation.
it's the debate over the use of LOL, I should say, in texting. Now, you and I have talked about this offline many a times, Annie Mae, but apparently there's a social media influencer who happens to be a millennial saying, hey, Gen Zers, stop getting mad at us because every time we send you an LOL, you respond with, like, what the heck are you doing? In this case, millennials use it, so 1, we don't sound rude, 2, to often soften the delivery, and 3, just because that's what we're used to using. I know you do not agree with this at all.
I use LOL all the time.
Do you? But you're a Gen Zer.
I do. I use LOL all the time. I don't agree that it's like, I'm with you where like I don't agree that it's to like sound like you're like less serious about something. For me, I use it so you know that, like, so you can detect sarcasm, right? So I'm an extremely sarcastic person, and I actually kind of find it funny when people don't know that I'm being sarcastic. I think it's even funnier. But you almost need to do it in text because people don't read things like the same way.
Yeah.
Like if you just say, I can't think of something off the top of my head, but if you say something that's like very plain that could be taken 2 other directions, you need to say LOL on the end where I'm like LOL. And
Yeah.
I'm not laughing out loud. Like it's not, I'm
See,
not
that's
laughing
what I
out
use
loud.
it for.
If I do, I'll be like, ha ha, like in all caps. Like it'll be
Okay.
like, ha ha ha. Or I'll laugh at your message. That's when I was like, okay, that's funny.
Yeah.
But I'll be like, LOL, that's funny.
That and soften the delivery. I mean, you want to make sure that you understand that, hey,
You know that I'm joking.
Yeah, I'm just joking, right? Yeah.
Because some people can't take a joke. And I have too dang many of them to be spending time on this.
And so after the LOL, I got to make sure I get it right. What comes next? What emoji should I
That's
should I
the
not
problem.
use?
You lose me with emojis because old people use the laughing like and like that is not that's weird. That's chuggy. That's not it. But you have to use the sobbing. I've had this discussion before.
Yeah, I know.
You have to use the sobbing, but sometimes I'll use the laugh cry one because I know I'm texting an old person. So I'm like, oh, gotta change my emoji so they don't think I'm sobbing. You
Which
know?
explains why I got the laugh cry one the other day
Yes.
from Annie Mae.
I do. I'm like, ha ha ha. Like, even though I'm like, oh my God, that's like a clown emoji.
Oh, gosh.
Or
yeah.
the dead emoji. Oh my God, I'm dead. That was so funny. Dead. You're like,
All
I'm not
things-
actually dead.
Yeah, I got to work on this. So
Right?
I promise, what is it, September, by December or next year, I'll have it all
Just
together.
throw in like a dead emoji, like the skull. That's fun. Like, oh my God, that was so funny. I'm passed away.
Gosh, all right, we're dead and
Yeah.
nothing but pure vibes right here.
Nothing but vibes.
As
LOL.
we do our Wednesday Talkers with Annie Mae right here on the Live Zone. I appreciate you.
Of course.
All right, guys, we're just minutes away, or shall I say seconds away from the take. If you haven't already done so, make sure you download the Fox Local app. You see it right there on your TV screen. That way you can check out our friend producer Chris tonight for Do You Like It or Not, coming up at 7:30. In the meantime, the take coming up next right here on Fox 5. On behalf of my producer, Emmy, I'm Guy Lambert. We'll see you tomorrow at 12 noon right here on Fox 5.